Good morning. It is 8 o'clock. It is the 8th day of March 2021, and I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM. I put the old in old school. Get off my lawn, you meddling kids. And it is time for the weekly gaming news, everything that's going on in the gaming world that we can find information about. But first, can we just say our god, Maki Itoh, the cutest wrestler in the world, looked amazing last night on the AEW pre-show. She really stepped up her game. Such a charismatic Joshi wrestler. She's really amazing. So much fun. Not the best wrestler in the world, but she's just obviously having a lot of fun at her job, which is always nice to see. All right, so what's going on in the world? Well, trigger warning. Part of the news involves something that some people consider controversial. So before I go any further, I do have to say trigger warning. So if discussing Adam Koebel in any way, shape, or form upsets you, please stop watching now. I'll wait. Okay, obviously you're still here, so you don't care. Let's go on with the news. All right. Jasper's Game Week is coming up in May 2021. It's sponsored by D&D Beyond, Jasper's Game Day, Hearthsinger Games, and Ardent Roleplay. Please go to your friendly local game store. That's Seth's Games and Anime here in Ventura, or North Coast Roleplaying if you're in Eureka, California, or contact Aaron at Jasper's Game Day directly. If you're not aware, Jasper's Game Day is a charity event put on at gaming stores for mental health and suicide prevention. It's a suicide prevention RPG community event happening this May. So I can't think of a better, charity to support right now with everything that's going on in the world, with the exception for maybe Primetime Sports Camp. That's a charity you should support too. There is a starter set for the RPG Symbonium, a dark fantasy setting game from our buddies over at Free League. It's one of the few Free League products that does not use the Year Zero D6 system, but uses a D20 system. It is currently being reviewed by Rob Wieland over on his site and on the Free League Publishing site. So if you want to see what a RPG set for another Free League Publishing product looks like, check it out. As already announced, 2 more cast members have been announced for the Dungeons & Dragons game. Hugh Grant of Love Actually for Weddings and a Funeral and Notting Hill has been cast as the villain of the film. And his name is Forge Fletcher. Now, I'm going to look that up, Forge Fletcher, to see if that is anything from D&D history, and it's not. So I don't know. Does anybody know from any of the D&D books or whatever who Forge Fletcher is, or is he somebody that they just made up new? Because really, if I'm gonna be afraid of a villain, Forge Fletcher is not the villain I'm gonna be afraid of. So there's got to be more to this. Also announced was Sophie Lillis from Gretel and Hansel and It. We'll be playing a character named Doric. Grant, these two join Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, and Reshe J. Page in the film. Those rules have not been announced yet, with the writer-director team of Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. Hidden Path Entertainment has posted several job openings for a video game taking place inside the Dungeons & Dragons franchise. This game will use the Unreal 4 engine and is an AAA third-person open-world fantasy role-playing game. So top tier. Equivalents would be Witcher, Mass Effect, or Grand Theft Auto. TLB Games and Legends of Role-Playing have attained a license to the library of RPG works by Rob Coutts. So this is interesting to all your old-school OSR, OSC players. Mr. Coutts was part of the Gary Gygax Gaming Group and was one of the first Blackmore playtesters, and was one of the people who went around to demonstrate D&D back then to people in the area. He playtested in many of the early playtests of Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games throughout the early history of the company that used to be known as TSR before it became Wizards of the Coast. He worked on Castle Greyhawk, and he has his own called Castle El Raja K, which was used to playtest Dungeons and Dragons in 1974 and 1975. The estate is looking to license their material to some companies seeking to develop 5e products based upon the original work, but also with the OSR. So that could be interesting. I mean, there's always this weird fascination with Castle Greyhawk. Everybody thinks they've seen it. You know, everybody has their own Castle Greyhawk story. Everybody's fascinated with the maps and they're always trying to look, you know, what was in Castle Greyhawk, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, most of the early modules were just chunks of Castle Greyhawk that were released as other things with different names. So a lot of the stuff with Gygax's name on it, especially early stuff, you know, I mean, like Tomb of Horrors, which was just stuff that was taken from the larger Castle Greyhawk and chopped up and repasted to make new individual products. So a lot of us have seen Castle Greyhawk levels and stuff on Castle Greyhawk, maybe just without realizing that it's just we were looking at Castle Greyhawk, just it was renamed, you know, Tomb of the Spider King or whatever. Okay, here's the first one. Trigger warning. Hero Forge has announced 3 new wheelchair options for custom miniatures. The 3 wheelchairs available under the mounts sections of the miniature creation sites. Oh, I'm sure that's going to upset somebody. How dare you call my wheelchair a mount? Includes 2 fantasy variations, the town wheelchair and the battle wheelchair, and 1 modern option, which is similar to the medical hospital wheelchairs. Medical hospital wheelchairs are awful. I mean, the wheelchairs can be painted for color miniatures and have custom options for wheels and handles with multiple poses available. This comes as this announcement comes on the same day that was International Wheelchair Day. So happy International Wheelchair Day to all my special needs friends. We know that this whole combat wheelchair thing is just a cauldron of controversy and toxicity on both sides. So if you have any opinion whatsoever about this, positive or negative, I warned you. And now the other one. Here we go. I mentioned at the beginning of this that we were going to talk about something that relates to Adam Koebel. And here we go. So there was a Kickstarter going up for a thing called Perfect RPG. And it was done by Luke Crane. Luke Crane, amongst other things, is the vice president of community over at Kickstarter. So you would think he would know what he's doing. It was a zine project that was going to allow lots of designers to create and work together. Dragon Magazine would probably be the best example, but a little bit more. Unfortunately, Adam Koebel was involved in the project. And one of the many issues is that he put the list of workers that were contributing to it in reversed order. So a person whose name started with Z would be at the top, and a person whose name started with A would be at the very bottom. And a lot of people think the reason why he did that was that so when they were reading through the names of contributors, they wouldn't, see his name hidden at the bottom. So that's the first problem that became involved with this project. The second project was he didn't tell anybody that Adam Koebel was working on this. And if you're not aware of who Adam Koebel is, we'll get to that in a second. But there is some controversy associated with that name. So a lot of people contributed to this project, about 19 or 20 designers, without being informed ahead of time, one of the people that is, working on this project is this individual. And this individual, Adam Koebel, has a lot of controversy with him. So when it was discovered that he sort of, in some people's opinion, catfished these people to come work on this project, and then they found out that, oh, you put your names backwards so you would hide his name and you didn't tell us, a lot of them withdrew and from working on it. And because a lot of the writers withdrew, Luke Crane had to cancel the project, which of course got Jessica Price up all in an uproar. How, you know, and anything that Jessica Price touches just becomes that much worse. Trigger warning: if you're a fan of Jessica Price and her work, I apologize, but you can't say she is not somebody who does not have controversy following with her. Not safe for work, PG-13, trigger warning, consent. All right. So, here, if you're not aware of who Adam Koebel is, he is the individual who a few years ago, during a live stream for a game called Fair Verona, acted out a sexual assault scene on one of the other players without their consent. And part of the problem is that Adam Koebel is from the same camp that Jessica Price is. He was, for many, many years, he was all about consent, women's rights, Me Too, player advocacy, X cards, you know, who call anybody who, you know, who didn't agree with him horrible names, who viciously attack people who didn't see the world the same way he did. And now it turned out that was all bullshit. I mean, he even went out for a while saying he was gay, but no, it turns out he was gaslighting women, and he had orchestrated a whole game specifically so he could play out a rape fantasy on this one woman's character, and then laughed about it afterwards. Now, other people have said, well, it was a game and blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to say, you know, he did this, and then he was asked to apologize, and he didn't really apologize the first time around. In fact, he blamed other people, and he acted like a victim, like somehow it was other people's fault that he had orchestrated this sexual assault scene. He lost his job. He lost a lot of contact with the gaming community. He was persona non grata for a while. Now, Luke Crane may have known this, or he may not have known this. Part of the problem is that he is the Kickstarter vice president, so he should have done some research before he went into business with Mr. Koebel about his past. And then he should have, consent, trigger warning, whatever, let the other writers know that Mr. Koebel is associated with this project, giving them the choice ahead of time to decide whether they wanted to work with him or not. But because they didn't, and because of the way he hid Adam Koebel's name, all these people pulled out, and so the guy had to end his project. So that's a lot of the reasons why the problem happened, and now the project has been indefinitely postponed, and Mr. Crane now has the sword of Damocles hanging over his head. Will, you know, Jessica Price and the torch-bearing toxic SJW fraction of the role-playing community go after him and force him to resign because he did a project with this other individual who supposedly did something horrible? Now, Adam Koebel has not been tried in a court of law, which means under the, you know, United States, he's innocent until proven guilty. So, now, personally, I think the guy's scum, and it has nothing to do with the sexual assault. It's just he's just something very gaslighty scum about it. But that's just me. You might think he's a wonderful human being, and he was treated unfairly, and whatever. I am not in a position to argue your ideas one way or another. But so that Kickstarter campaign has ended in controversy. All those writers pulled out. Any people who already invested money in the project have to be repaid. There will probably be some backlash for Luke Crane if there isn't already. So there we go. That is the big news. Okay, and Mofidus D20 has announced the Octan Cthulhu 2D20 release date for March 9th. That's tomorrow. So this is the new version of the World War II meets Cthulhu mythos using the Mophidius 2D20 system. So yeah, there we go. If you were a fan of, World War II soldiers fighting Cthulhu, here is the new version of that using the 2D20 system. And finally, the Fallout Wasteland Warfare bundle is in its final week at Humble Bumble. This includes a whole bunch of stuff for the Fallout miniature game, and it goes to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And there's some royalty-free music bundles also up on Humble Bumble this week. And the funds from that will go to the Prevent Cancer Foundation and Save the Children. So there we go. We have some normal news. We have some OSR news. We have some news about the movie. We've got some news about combat wheelchairs being put into miniatures for Hero Forge, which I'm sure somebody's going to be upset about. We have the news about the Perfect RPG project getting canceled and the controversy and blah, blah, blah. I wish this toxic controversy thing would end. I mean, it doesn't matter whether I approve of somebody or disapprove of somebody. It doesn't matter if you approve of somebody or disapprove of somebody. Vote with your wallet. All this stuff just makes our already unstable gaming community a lot more unstable. And that's pretty much it for the news. Oh, look, Ravenloft's already not in the news anymore. How quickly the world changes. If you appreciate this content, comment down below. If you don't appreciate this content and think I should shut up, let me know. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th. And remember, my 350th sub will get a copy of Mutants and Masterminds 2nd edition. Shout out to Smashed, one of my YouTube followers, and shout out to all the people who joined my YouTube channel in the last couple days. Thank you very much for taking time to subscribe to the OGGM Adventures. It's going to be a grumpy 2021, so hang on to your hats. Until next time, get off my lawn.